Hello, welcome. Today I am Michael Smith. This is Awaken to Truth. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you would please hit that red subscribe button and don't forget to also hit the bell so that you can be alerted to all of the videos that are uploaded. All right, got a few things that I wanted to dive into today. I don't know if you've heard about the new legislation, but evidently the Congress and Senate, among all of the things that they could be doing or that potentially that we could benefit from legislation-wise, they felt it necessary to add 87,000 IRS agents. And I think that probably whether you're in a red state, blue state, Republican, Democrat, Independent, I doubt that that is really something that 99% of the American people are clamoring for is 87,000 new IRS agents, but that's what we are going to get. And I just put a brief calculation to that. Imagine or just suppose that the United States government is going to spend $65,000 total between salary, benefits, and everything on these IRS agents. They're probably going to spend more than that, but let's just say it was just $65,000. That would be about $5.65 billion. Now, we know that the government is not necessarily very good at getting money back on their investments, and oftentimes they operate things at a tremendous loss and very inefficiently. The United States Post Office is a great example of that. They couldn't make a profit if their life depended on it. But I have a feeling in this case that they're probably going to find a way to get that 5.6, 6.5, 7, however much they end up actually spending $1 billion back by pestering you, hopefully not me, but potentially me, pestering you and me for more taxes. So there's going to be 87,000 more IRS agents. They can show up and say, hey, you owe us 5,000 more, 7,000 more, 3,000 more, 2,000 more. They're not going to be showing up bothering the billionaires. Okay. They're not going to bother. They're not going to waste their time with that because that's too big of a fight. It's like, they say with black bears, I'm not an expert on black bears, but they say with black bears that if you are struggling against a black bear, that if they are looking to attack you, make yourself real big and don't seem like you're afraid, because they will kind of calculate that if they think they're going to get a big fight out of it, they'll just avoid it. I'm gonna have to turn this off because it continues to go off. But if they think it's easy prey, they'll go after it. Well, the IRS is the same way. If they think it's easy prey, somebody that's going to struggle to, fight the extra $5,000, and if they did fight it, it's going to cost them probably more than the $5,000 that they're being demanded to pay. That's the people they're going to go after. They're not going to go after the people they're going to give the big fights, the extremely wealthy. It's going to be the average American that's going to pay this additional bill. So it's an additional tax. It's a lottery tax. You might get picked, you might not. But that's what the wonderful party in charge, the Democratic Party, feels is needed at this time. This is the same wonderful group that empowered flight attendants to contact federal agents and have them meet you at the gates of your plane if your mask fell below your nose a few too many times. So I don't think this is probably going to be a wildly popular program, but it is one we are getting nevertheless. Also, I don't know if you saw, but former President Trump's house in Florida, West Palm Beach, was raided by the FBI. Don't have a lot of details on that. Just haven't had the time to look into it, so I don't really want to comment a whole lot on it. But certainly, I have never heard of a former president having their house raided by the FBI. We know that at least one presidential candidate had many thousands of emails that were of interest. They scrubbed those emails, went to great lengths this, of course, is Hillary Clinton, went to great lengths to make sure that those emails were not found FBI never showed up at her house, but they did show up at Trump's house. So that's a little bit disturbing. Also interesting. I don't know. Maybe we'll talk about that more as the story develops. But lastly, there's been a lot of talk about whether or not we are in recession. And the media and the White House have done a great job at changing this definition very cleverly on the fly. Traditionally, it's always been thought of that a recession is 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP. It's the gross domestic product, for those of you that don't know. In other words, if we are producing less, if we are being less productive for 6 consecutive months, then it has always been assumed we are either in recession or that is a telltale indicator that recession is at hand, but not anymore. And after the last couple of years of Orwellian doublespeak, why should it surprise us that no longer is this long-standing metric that has been used to describe and measure recessions? That doesn't count anymore. If there was another candidate in the White House, the other one that ran, the one that just got their house raided by the FBI, if he was in the White House, I would say that that old metric probably would be good enough to go ahead and start calling recession on every major news channel out there. But now it's just simply, no, it doesn't mean that anymore. It's simply this ambiguous, widespread economic decline that nobody can really define. But whatever it is, it's not taking place now. Don't worry. And there was a jobs report that came out last week that seemed to excite them even more to say, see, I told you there's no recession. But historically speaking, I'm not going to get into the weeds on this, but historically speaking, jobs are a lagging indicator. That often early in recessions, there can be job creation. In fact, the unemployment rate doesn't reach its peak or begin to go much higher until the recession is nearly ending. And there was a stat that I saw that to me sheds a little bit of light on this so-called jobs that are being created anyway. And again, I'm not going to get into the weeds in this. I've done a little bit more research than I'm going to share on this particular video. But household debt, it's a pretty big, important thing. It reached an all-time high last month. $16.5 trillion of household debt. $16.5 trillion. And other than that being a ridiculously high number, you might say to me, well, so what? What does that really mean? Well, what it means is that 2 trillion of that has taken place in the last 2 years. And that signals that Americans are not paying their bills. We're being like our government. We're not paying our bills. We don't have enough, so we borrow. And we're borrowing in the tune of trillions of dollars, or averaging over $1 trillion per year debt that the American consumer is taking on. And one reason I believe, we'll see if I'm right as this plays out, but one reason I believe that that is taking place is that if you look at the inflation rate that's reported, which is just over 9%, and if you look at the increase in wages, which depending on where you look, typically it's not any higher than 5%. The American worker is at a net loss of 4%. So while there may be jobs being created, these are not jobs that are keeping up with the pace of inflation. And many of these jobs are not individuals filling this job. These are jobs that are actually being taken on as second jobs by people who can't pay all of their bills from their first job. And so I think that this debt indicator is a bad sign for where we're probably headed. I do believe we are in recession. I think that the mainstream media is going to look foolish, give it another 3 to 6 months. Not that they don't regularly look foolish, but I think they're going to look foolish again for celebrating that this is not a recession. And I don't really care who's in the White House. A recession is not good for you. It's not good for me. It's not really good for any American, but I think it is something that we are not only about to come in, I think it's something that we are already in. But time will tell whether I am right or wrong. Thank you. I just wanted to put this short video out, discuss a few things. I'll be back with another video probably later on this week. God bless you, and I'll be back soon.